So if you have a TV that you picked up that you've never calibrated, let's go through calibrating the settings on that thing, and it's going to cost you nothing to do so. The first setting we're going to need to find is anything that says power energy or energy saver, and go ahead and turn that off. Now before we get started with calibration, there's going to be a bunch of different settings, anything related to brightness, sharpness, or contrast. We're going to change those settings or turn those settings to off, turn that processing off. We want our monitor to be, or our TV to be, as close to a neutral setting as possible to let these image calibration tools do the most for you. Yours may look different than mine. Don't worry about it. Take your time, go through it, pause the video, and then just get back to me when you're all set to go. Essentially, what we need to turn off all these other processing settings is we would kind of need our display to be at a neutral point to start out with. Some of them you might be turning back on later at the end of the video, but we first got to get our display calibrated with any processing happening. Okay, to use this image for testing, anything from the 16 side to the left here, this should all stay black. If you adjust your brightness too far, this will start to go to gray. Then we should turn our black setting down. We should also see bars flashing in this area. If there's no bars flashing here, adjust your brightness or increase your brightness until you see the flashing. I'll leave this image on the screen for the next minute to give you a chance to calibrate your own monitor at this time. Simply put, for this test, we want to see our brightness setting as low as we possibly can adjust it, where all the bars 17 through 25 are still flashing. Now, any of the bars from 2 to 16, they should all be pure black. So if any of them start turning gray, you've gone too far or too bright. Next off, once this one's done, we're going to move on to contrast. You can blip forward. I'll leave a timestamp down below. To adjust our contrast here, bars 230, 234 or higher, we want them to flash. If they stop flashing, we've gone too far or added too much contrast. Before we continue any further, on this one we are just going to verify that our brightness and contrast are set correctly. Half the bars should be flashing, the other half should not be flashing in both the white section and on the black section. If you're happy with your results, continue on to the next one. We're going to adjust our sharpness. If not, go back and start the brightness and contrast again. So with this pattern, we want to increase our sharpness as high as we can, but we don't want any patterns to develop in any part of this image. You can see a bunch of diamonds in different parts here. And you'll also see this arc. So you'll want to decrease your sharpness until none of these weird shapes show up, but maintaining the sharpness as high as we can. Now, before you adjust any of your color settings, snap a picture of those things so you have them for reference in case you really mess it up. You at least know how to get yourself back. The same will hold true for the hue setting after this one. What this color pattern should look like to you is something similar to the one that you see in the middle here. If it's oversaturated or there's too much color, we're going to start getting to this end, or too little color, we'll start getting somewhere down at this end. To adjust your tint and hue, it should look like the middle picture. If it's too far to the red side, it'll start to look like this. If it's too far to the green side, it'll look like this. I'll leave that image up for the next minute to let you tweak around with that as well. Again, before you adjust any of the hue, make sure you snap a picture of what your current settings are in case you need to go back to them later without having to reset your entire display and wiping out everything that we've done so far. Now, I can't take any credit for the images that you're going to be using for calibration here or that we're using in the video. They've been come up by people much smarter at me than doing this. Special shout out to AVS HD 709 and this group on the AVS forum. If you want the actual raw files that you can burn to a DVD or any of the raw files, they're available totally free. You can pick them up there. Link is going to be in the description as well. There you go. Your TV display is calibrated. Now, those other settings that we turned off, I recommend picking a movie or a TV show that's been recorded in the last probably 5 years. The image quality will be good and it'll have a high dynamic range of color and contrast for you to kind of tweak those settings. The key here is to just take one setting at a time, watch for a little while, see if you like it. If you don't, change that setting back and kind of just take your time. After about an hour, you're going to have a really polished display that looks the best to you.